Hey guys, welcome back to the Farmer and Sons Garage channel. This is episode 5, I guess, of the pickle build and swapping the 63 F100 unibody onto the 2009 Crown Vic. And as you can see, and from the previous videos, we've been starting the deconstruction or tear down of the Crown Vic. Again, we're keeping the dash, firewall, floor, seats. We'll eventually change to different seats, but we're starting out with the Crown Vic buckets. So today we're trying to cut these B pillars off. I've already got that one mostly sliced off, about ready to pull off. We'll be slicing on this one. Went ahead and put a line of tape across here to give me a fairly straight line to follow. And I've already took the slice and dice, as Puddin likes to say, and went across here. And you have to be really careful on both sides of this because there are fuel lines, brake lines, and clusters of wires that run through here. So you do not want to go deep through that. And actually, I'm going to wait to finish this until I can slide a piece of metal or an old license plate or something under here to make sure I don't nick one of the brake lines when I do this. Then when we go, we'll be cutting both of these inner fenders out. I'm going to leave this entire top section. So we'll be kind of following the line of this seam seal with the Sawzall or the cutting wheel and running through here on both sides and cutting these tubs out. We'll probably leave about, I like to leave these body mounts in here. So we'll probably come back just past that body mount and cut across to start with. Get rid of the rear part of this trunk. 90% of it or 85%. Cut these fender wells out or tubs. Cut the whole back of the car off. We may go ahead and cut a couple inches off the back of the frame because we're going to probably end up cutting 8 or 10 inches off of it. We'll end up having to trim the exhaust and move them up. But for today's video, let's show them. This was it's kind of cool. It'll be covered up though when we drop the truck down on it. I don't know if you showed them this already, but this was a Hancock County, Tennessee car that I bought off Gov Deals, and we went down and picked it up. But this tape that's on top here is because we've had to have it covered with a tarp. So all the really sharp, jagged edges, I've been putting tape over just to keep the tarp as the wind blows it and moves it around from slicing itself open. I taped off the top of both of these. Like I said, this one, we've already pulled the seat belts. All the parts of the seat belt are out. And may have one little, I think that's actually the foam was holding us on. So that one's cut off, and I tried to go as straight across as I can on that. And we'll eventually have to take the rest of that out. We'll have to cut off a part of this. I'm gonna look at my truck, see how much I left on it, kind of give us a gauge to go by. And we will be going across, I'll have to find where the body mount is back here. There's one. I don't think we'll use that body mount. I'll have to check underneath the car and stuff. We'll probably be going across right through here somewhere and cutting this entire section out. And that'll give us access to this little wire. Has a connector under there. So I can go in and disconnect it, pull it out, reconnect it once I've gotten it out. And then that'll eliminate, I'll actually weld a little piece of metal or put a little rubber grommet in that hole to fill that up. And mine actually shows in the bed of my truck, but I welded a little, actually cut a piece of the Crown Vic metal off and stuck in there and welded it in. But we will probably pause the video right now. I've kind of told you the cuts we're going to try to make today. We'll pop the video back on, show once we've got the cuts made. There's so many videos already out there that show all these cuts. Some of my previous videos, Nathan's Garage, River City, Holler Boy's Garage, so many others. Straight Cut Gears, Caleb, when he redid his truck and dropped it on a Crown Vic, he shows a bunch of the cutting on his. But anyway, there's several other videos. If you want to see exactly precisely where the cuts are, there's so many already out there, there's no use to be redundant and show that again. But anyway, we'll pause the video for now and get to cutting. Okay, so we're back on the second day of this part of the video. We worked up until dark. If you'll see in the video, we worked till to get the back of this cut off. And because we're working in the dark, I have done one of these before, but it was like 3 years ago. So just erring on the side of caution, we cut through last night completely safe and plus a quick and easy cut on both sides like this, just to get rid of that whole rear section that we've kind of leaned over against the fence there. We just cut that out. And as you can see, get my finger in here, right in that area, we had to do a relief cut to get that wire that goes down to the little evaporator core, or whatever that little charcoal canister, the thing that's connected with the fuel tank, that's tucked up under the back of the trunk. So we've still got that connected. Also, and I showed this on my other video series when I did it on my other truck, when you're removing all the wires back here with the taillights and everything, back where the trunk latch, or the little rod where the trunk connects to, right on that is this ground. I've not marked it yet because I'm just going to put it back, attach it back. But that ground is what works the fuel pump. So until we reground that, like right now, if I go try to turn the key on, it's not going to prime the fuel pump, because unless that's grounded, it won't kick on. So whenever you are cutting the trunk off the back of the car, pay close attention to that ground, because that's what works your fuel pump. So we're going to, I've already started cutting back here. Rather than unbolting the bumper and taking it off, since the frame's got to be cut off anyway, I'm cutting just past, because I don't want the exhaust to dangle right now and have to worry about it yet. Eventually we'll have to cut that off, but we're still a ways from that. So I'm just cutting back here right past the exhaust hanger on the frame, and we're going to finish that off and take that off. Then we will, of course, we'll eventually have to come in here and do a pie cut and level that out and weld it back. So today we're going to take the rest of that off back there, cut these little sections out, cut this part. We'll probably cut right here. There's where the body mount is for the Crown Vic. So we'll probably slice somewhere along in here, about 1.5 inches behind that, or 2 inches, and cut that section out, which will give us access to removing this wire that goes in the top of the fuel tank. We put this stuff on here last night, this little pop-up tent and that cooler, just so that the tarp would stay on it, and if it rained, it would run the water off instead of sinking in. So we need to get rid of that too. But we'll pause the video, put it on a time lapse as we start working here, and try to use what little bit of daylight we've got left today. All right, folks, so this will wrap up episode 5 of the Pickle Project. And as you can see, as we explained when we started the video, we cut the back of the frame rails on both sides, or the back of the frame on both sides, right past the rear, the last exhaust hanger that's right on the frame. Instead of unbolting the rear bumper, we just cut right through the frame, through that, and took the bumper off and not having to unbolt and everything. We just did that as part of that. Then we went up, as we showed when we started the video, on top of the little hump there where the Crown Vic rear suspension and the gas tank is. On the front part of that, which would be at the back of the back seat, the top of where the back seat would be, we cut across that. Then down where the bottom of the back seat would be, we cut that out. So kind of that section that would be behind the back seat, on the upper part of the back seat, we took all of that out and then cut the little front of the rear fender wells, quarter panel areas up front, cut that out. And
a little trick he always does, he takes, like this time we used a little Ford license plate like he's got on his wall in here and just slid it in there just to cover up fuel lines, brake lines, wires, stuff that's running in there on the side of the frame, because those little brackets that ran underneath that part, up across the top of that hump and down in the floor where we had to cut behind those two mounts, the body mounts. There's, what is about that thick?
Yeah, it's about 2 inches wide, and you'll see the couple of spot welds. Well, it's right above where the frame rail is, or on the other side of the frame rail, just a little bit over. There's, and it's just for extra support, to give it some support there. It's just an extra little U-shaped channel that runs the whole length of that.
All the way into the trunk.
Yeah. So we had to, once we saw where it was, and you can see in the time lapse, we're taking our time and sliding that. It was just an old metal Ford license plate that we kind of bent and twisted to get up under there, so that as you're going with the Sawzall or the cutting wheel, you don't go all the way down and cut through the brake line or the fuel line and cause yourself a lot of headache. So
learn from you, Caleb.
Yeah, Caleb Cox on his Hulk build, he sliced one of his brake lines while he was doing his. So I made a mental note when I watched that to make sure we didn't have that accident happen to us. So sorry that you were the experience we needed, Caleb. So your heartache and heartburn helped us not have to have that same mistake.
But that's what's so good about, this community with all these guys is, people learn, share it, and it helps other people. That's why we don't really show all the cuts we do, because there's so many good videos, like he's already said, of guys doing those. We just kind of keep you updated with what we're doing and show you progress and little tips and tricks that we find along the way. That's what's fun about it.
Yeah, and there's no, I've said this when I was doing my truck and did the build, there's really no right or wrong way to do these. It's just whatever your personal preference is. If you want to keep the truck fully intact and take it off the frame of your truck, and then just remove the entire body off the Crown Vic and just use the actual frame, motor, transmission, and all that, and drop the truck down on and wire everything into the dash of the original dash and hook everything up to where the truck is completely uncut. It's just dropped back on the Crown Vic frame. That's totally fine. That's great. If you want to go that route, that's fantastic. If you just want to use the 03 and up cross member and just the front suspension from the Crown Vic, as a lot of people do, and do it that route, and then put whatever motor you want, whatever transmission you want, and all that kind of stuff. And
a lot of it depends on what your purpose is with it too. Like, do you want to really enjoy just driving it like a daily?
Yeah.
Do you want it to be something that you take down the track and you need the extra strength of a truck frame? Is it something you're going to pull a camper with?
Yeah. And the length of time you want to take on your project. How long do you want this done in a few months, or even a few weeks? If we really were hitting this hard, truly, what have we done? Let's see. The one day we took the front clip off the truck. The one day we did the front clip off the car. Then we did the cuts on the car of the roof and stuff. Then today, or yesterday and today. So truly, we've only spent 5 days working on this, actually working.
3 of those days were only 2 to 3 hours a day.
Yeah, because we're in the time of year where, we get home at about 5 o'clock, and by 6:30 it's dark. So we're having to spend, we're only getting 2 or 3 hours a day. So we've got maybe 15 hours, maybe 20 max in this so far. So, your time you want to spend on it factors into which way you want to go, how much money you want to spend.
As well as dealing with wiring.
Yeah.
Like you've said before in your other videos with the blue truck, I mean, the way that we're doing this, you don't have to cut into the air system, the HVAC system. You don't have to cut into any of the wiring. No. And we're actually saving the wiring and labeling like we've showed you before. I mean, that's a big perk to it to me, because that's something that'd be a monster to tackle.
And we even go, when we get ready to plug the headlights back up, there's a little adapter, and when we get to that video, I'll put the link to like Amazon or wherever. There's an adapter you get that goes from this late model clip back to the old 3-prong style, which is like the old Ford trucks or the late model Jeeps. So when you get ready to put your headlights back in, you can actually go on eBay and get like a 07 and up Jeep headlight, the LEDs or the halos or whatever. That's what I've got in my blue truck now. And I went off
those green ones.
eBay, bought a set of the Jeep, like 07 and up JK Jeep headlights, and they fit right in to the original headlight bracket, and they're turned exactly the right way for the little notch to fit into the old headlight bucket. It's like they were made for them. So that works out great. But again, when I get to that point in the series of this one, we'll put the part numbers and all that stuff, because we're going to do the same thing on Laban's truck. But like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do these. It's just whatever's good for you. And so if you want to, like we're doing, we're keeping the Crown Vic dash, floor, firewall, everything. And originally, when we first build it, we'll probably still have the Crown Vic buckets in until we find either a Grand Marquis or a Lincoln Town Car, or we might go with, some people are using like third row seats from like a Tahoe or some other SUV, or the rear seat from like a late model F-250, like a 2012 or 15 F-250. You can get the rear seat out of a crew cab F-250, and those look really good. And you just fab up a little bracket to mount those two. We'd love to get one like those Tahoe seats where the seat belts are actually made into the seat instead of having to make some kind of brackets for the seat belts. Because if it's just made right in the seat, once you build your seat or your seat bracket and put it in, all the seat belts are kind of self-contained in the seat,
connected to the seat and the belt itself.
But kind of on that line of, however you want to build your truck, I'm happy however you want to do it. I used to be one of the people that would get so mad if somebody put a Chevy engine in a Ford truck. That was years ago, because I was like, oh man, it's a Ford, you're supposed to put a Ford in it. But as I've gotten older and I realize it's my money that's paying for my truck, I didn't pay for that guy's truck that put the Chevy motor in it. And I don't hate that anymore.
LS swap the world.
LS swap. If you want an LS swap, go right ahead. If you want to buy an old Dodge Slant 6 and put it in something, if that's the motor you love. If you want to put a Cummins, I'm joking about the Slant 6 anyway. But if you want to put a Cummins, man, there's a guy that's got and I can't remember the name of it, but it's a unibody. I think it's a unibody, or it's either a 64. I'm pretty sure it's a unibody, patinaed out. That's got the big smokestack in the bed. That is one of the coolest trucks I have ever seen. Man, I love that truck. And I'll try to figure out and tell you on the next video who that is, because it used to be on Instagram a lot. And then I got a buddy of mine, Craig Grisola, that's got No Spark Innovations. He was parked near me the first year I took my truck when it was nowhere near finished and probably shouldn't even been on the road. I mean, it still had holes in the bottom where I hadn't finished welding it all together. We got in a rainstorm and it was just pouring water in because I hadn't finished welding everything up. I just wanted to get it to a show because I had it, ready to drive, and had part of the bed still wide open above the mufflers. Well, I didn't have any mufflers. I cut the mufflers out. But again, however you want to build it, it's how you want to build it. Nobody's paying for my truck. Nobody's paying for Laban's truck, or just me and him are. So their input really doesn't matter to us. If you don't like the Crown Vic Dash, I'm sorry, but it's our truck. You're never going to be sitting in it. You're never going to be driving it. It's ours. It's our dollars that are going into it. And we're saving a boatload of money by just taking a Crown Vic that we can buy for cheap on Gov Deals. I bought another one at a local police auction.
And that's reliable.
Yeah. I mean, these are bulletproof cars. I mean, if something breaks down on it, heck, you can almost buy a whole nother Crown Vic and put whatever motor, transmission, whatever you want to out of it, rather than going and paying for a motor or transmission out of some other vehicle.
Exactly.
That would be more than the whole Crown Vic costs.
Exactly.
So they're just so cheap. And man, they are just so tough and so reliable, and they ride so well. Man, when we take my truck, I drove it to Nashville, Tennessee, or Lebanon, Tennessee last year to the Redneck Rumble. Drove back that evening. I mean, it was 4 hours down, 4 hours back. And man, that thing just hums right along down the interstate. So smooth, so easy, and it rides so great. But how I'm going to finish this, and I appreciate you guys. This is a longer video probably than what we normally do. So if you're still watching at this point, I really appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, we'd love for you to subscribe. We're up over 700 now, I think today when I checked. So I appreciate all of you that are subscribing. Share this with your buddies if they're thinking about doing a Crown Vic swap. If Laban and I can do it in our little garage with very limited tools and resources.
We ain't even got in the garage yet.
No, we're not. We're still in the driveway. So, I mean, two guys in a driveway can knock one of these out pretty much. And I've seen guys do them in their driveways, you know, rig up some things. I use the rafters in my garage because I don't have an actual ceiling in there to help lift the cabin, the body off the truck and hold it up while we slide the Crown Vic under it. But anyway, appreciate you watching. If you don't want the Bible verse at the end, thank you for watching to here. You're welcome to check out. For the ones that are okay with that, and I do appreciate the ones that hang around and listen to the Bible verse because I feel like we don't get enough of that anymore. But anyway, I'm going to finish with 2 Timothy 23 or 24, I think it is. Laban will he may pop it up on the screen, but I think it's 2 Timothy 23. It says, do not get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only cause people to get angry and upset. And again, there's a page I follow, F100 World. A buddy of mine put his truck on the other day and shared a YouTube video of how he was doing his, and he was doing it on a Crown Vic swap. And he's keeping the truck dash and firewall and all that stuff. He's just incorporating some of the stuff from the Crown Vic into that. You know, he's pretty much not really cutting his truck up that much, just a little part of the firewall. And man, some guy was just telling him how he ruined it and, you know, all this nonsense. And you know, one of the rules on that page is you're not supposed to be negative towards somebody or not post rude and hateful comments. So I think that ended up getting comments cut off. But, you know, what's the point of going on there and doing that? You're just making somebody upset with something foolish and ignorant that you're saying. That guy's not paying any money on my buddy's truck that he's building. And, you know, he's got no involvement in it, no sweat equity, no monetary, anything like that. But still, he wants to insult the guy. You know, hey, he's taking a truck just like we have. This truck had been sitting in the same spot for I don't know how many years. Just like when I got my truck, it had been sitting out in the field, getting rained on, snowed on, bird pooped on, you know, whatever else, just rotting away for years before we came along, bought it, and started working on it. So ruining the truck would have been letting it sit there and continue to rot. Exactly. We're giving it a whole new life and giving it a second chance at life. And man, if you want to call my truck ruined, go right ahead, because I'm having the time of my life. That's the funnest thing I've got to drive. I've got my wife's 2019 Flex. That's a great vehicle, but man, I'd rather drive that truck all day. That you don't even have to turn the radio on. The exhaust sound is music when you're driving down the road, and people giving you thumbs up and waving at you. And when you pull into a gas station, people want to come over and talk to you about what their dad done one and all that stuff. So if you have ever thought about doing one of these frame swaps, and even not just a Crown Vic, you know, a Ford truck onto a Crown Vic, there's another page on Facebook that's called, there's a frame swap faction, and then there's a Crown Vic F100 full frame swap. There's the front cross member frame swap. There's so many of these. If you just go in and type in frame swap or body swap, there's a unibody body swap page, which has incredible builds. Man, those guys on there have so much talent and are so creative on these things.
And another good thing about those pages is if you ever have questions,
yes,
go to the page, go to the search button inside the right corner of the page, and just type in, for example, we've been thinking about gas filler ideas for my truck, for the bed. And I just typed in gas filler. And there was 30 or 40 different ones where people had asked gas filler ideas, and people just posted pictures of theirs.
Yeah,
they did different little ways. So anything that you need that you're like, man, who could I ask about this? You can't think. Go to one of those pages, because there's at least 5 that we frequent.
Oh yeah, and the Crown Vic swap community has grown so much. You know, when it first started, there was like Nathan's Garage that had done 1 or 2, River City that had done his unibody, and those are the 2 that when I first started, I can't tell you how many, literally hundreds of hours probably I spent watching, to the point where my wife was like, all you do is watch Crown Vic swap videos and you don't even have a truck and you don't even have a Crown Vic. And I'm like, yeah, but one day I'm going to. So I finally proved her right on that. So I can mark that down as being right one time. But, you know, we had such a great time. Laban helped me a lot when I did mine. Then he just all of a sudden one day said, hey, look, we need to do a truck for me. And he got to the point where financially he was able to do so. And again, it's not, I mean, each person has their own budget and all that stuff. But, I mean, if you set aside, if this is what you really want to do, set aside how much ever per month you can set aside and start putting into account an account or whatever that you won't touch. And when you get up to a little bit, go ahead and throw an ad on Facebook. That's how we found this truck. We put my wife has way more friends than he or I do.
Yeah.
She's like the Facebook queen.
Yeah.
So we actually used her Facebook account to post a picture of an old Ford truck, post an ad that said we're looking for an old Ford, and literally an hour or two later, I got a text from my nephew about this green truck.
Me too.
And yeah, and he texts Laban, and then a friend of my wife on Facebook, which is also someone that used to be married to one of my cousins, she Facebook messaged my wife. So both of our phones are dinging at about the same time. We were driving down the road. So anyway, within 30 minutes, we had gone to the house where this green truck was and made a deal with them. And what's great is the people we got this from, when we get it done, we're going to go back and let them ride with us some, because they wanted us to let them see the truck and let them ride in it once we get it finished. So that's going to be one of the first trips we make once we get it on the road, is to take it down and let them enjoy it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Laban and I are having a great time. Man, this is a great project for us to get to spend some time together, and we're having a blast.
Yep.
Don't forget to wear your gloves. It's very important you wear gloves. Stupid me that doesn't take the time to put them on and paid the price tonight. So I've got a pretty decent little cut there. I've got to doctor up. And I've got a nice little blister too already, but that's part of it. Anyway, till next time, thanks for watching. We appreciate you guys being part of the Farmer and Sons Garage. Take care.
Yep.